everybody. It's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we are finally getting around, because neither one of us had seen anything about it, to reviewing the first episode of the third season of Dark Winds. All right.
Yeah, what happened was on Sunday night, all of a sudden, I saw a banner on IMDb and it said Dark Winds tonight. And it's like, what? Like, there was no trailer, there were no articles, there was no nothing. And, Safi, she's really busy, like, staring at pictures of, I don't know,
Marco,
what's her name.
Would you stop bullshitting?
So, she didn't really know either, so... And then it was just, like, all out of nowhere, and... I was busy doing some work, and I didn't really have the time or energy to watch a new TV show episode, so this is a bit of a late review, but I guess it is better because tomorrow night is a new episode, so it's more relevant than it would have been, like, yesterday or something, I guess, but, like, for starters, the first season, it was okay. I thought that it had some decent moments. It was very silly at some points, though, and it was very boring in certain places. But there was potential for a good show. And overall, it was okay. The second season started off really good, and it had some really, really, really good parts. But because it was so short, it was rushed. And there were also some very stupid storylines where the main character, Joe Sleephorn, he becomes like a different character, and then also Emanuelita, all she does is scowl, and
she's a good scowler.
At the end of last season, basically the finale can be summarized as all the female characters leave the show. Like, that's literally what happens. Like, and I was like, wow. Like, this is not very exciting, like, all these female characters leaving.
And it just wasn't natural. It really wasn't. I don't believe that something like that would happen, where it just happened to be almost all the significant female characters leave the show.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
None of the male characters, just all the female characters. It's like, what WTF is up with that, Safi?
I don't know. And Marco and Joe Sleephorn had
Joe Sleephorn.
A couple of significant character changes, which he would never have done in the books. And I'd say a lot of people who watch the show have read the books, so they would know that. But anyway, now we come to this season, and they do bring in some, to remind people of what the things that happened last season. Of course, one of the main things was this one terrible character change. And it's not like, for Joe Sleephorn, it's brought up. They show a hint of it, because, they're assuming everybody saw that last season. And he doesn't seem like he's going to be like that now. It was just like he just lost himself, and it just wouldn't have happened, because that's just not who he is. So anyway, so we're on to the new season, and what's happened? Remember Emanuelita? Marco just said it.
Emanuelita.
Marco. All these big characters left and went away. And somebody brought up in a post, too, that what happened to the girl with the baby? She's just disappeared.
She's gone. Remember, she left.
Well, wouldn't they?
She gave up the baby and she left. Remember?
Well, people said, why wouldn't they care to know what's going on with her?
I don't know. I guess it's just that was the show. Like, all the female characters leave.
So.
But anyways, Emanuelita, her story was, I'm not allowed to move up here in the reservation because I'm a woman. And so I'm going to go somewhere where they're really going to respect me, the Border Patrol.
And based on what's in reality, I just didn't believe it, and either did Marco. And
Yeah, because
he knows less about it than I do, and I just thought that was BS.
What was the whole interview process like? Didn't she see anything, any red flags? Like, she's just like, oh yeah, this seems like a great place and a great group of people. And like, what was that whole process like? Like, we don't get to see any of that, and they just jump to a year later. And well, first off, they did the same thing they did last season, where they started off in the future where Joe Sleephorn is stuck in the middle of the desert at night, and all of a sudden there's a monster, and it's...
Well, he's been knocked out. He's been on the ground on his back, and he's knocked out.
Well, and there's an arrow in his neck.
That's right. There's a thing in his neck. It was weird looking.
So they tried the same thing, like where, oh look, this really, really scary climactic thing is going to happen, and in the future...
Yeah, they did that last season, too.
Yeah. And I think that it all depends on how it's built up to. Because right now, I gotta say, like, this episode's called, isn't it Big Scary Monster or something?
Something like that, yeah.
I think
the Indian name and this
whole monster situation, I think is, I don't know, like, I'm kind of mixed on it right now, because if they committed to it being a real monster that could be really, really creepy and scary, like, they could make a good horror season of the show. But if it's like a Scooby-Doo situation going on, then that's what it seems like. It seems like this is obviously a Scooby-Doo situation, and the showrunners think that it's a real monster, and I'm not convinced.
Well,
I think it's fake.
They do. I just remembered this. They show this thing that's going to happen in the future, but then they go back, which is what they did the last season, to 6 days later, or whatever days later it was. And so they get called out. It's Lee Porn, and then the other guy who, what's his name? I can't think of the guy.
You had all this time to prepare and you don't even know that guy's name?
No, I can't remember. Anyway,
oh no.
They meet out this crime scene, and Jim Chi shows up. He's back, and he's working for Joe Leaphorn. And somebody mentions La Llorona, and that's that. If you watch the Grimm episode, and there was a movie, wasn't there, about La Llorona?
Yes, Safi.
Which is this
mythical creature
person who comes every year and grabs so many kids, and then takes them into the water, and they drown because she drowned with her children, and she's crying for them. You hear the crying noise, and so they do mention La Llorona, but they said, well, if La Llorona drove a red pickup truck, and so because apparently somebody saw a red pickup truck near the scene. Yeah. So they did mention that mythical, and that's more of a Spanish, what do you call it, mythical person.
Oh, what do you
creature,
call it?
Creature, ghost, whatever. So this investigation right now for up there where they are in Gallup or wherever, this is about kids, 2 kids who are missing. And so that's why La Llorona is supposed to take kids, and they're kids, but they're like teenagers, so I guess, aren't they? And
early teenagers.
Yeah, like middle school, like 6th grade or something. But anyway, and then, well, I don't know if Marco wants to say anything about that.
You're like, we're doing a review, so I don't know if Marco wants to say anything about
I don't know
that.
If he wants to say anything more about that.
Oh, well, I guess we should say a little bit more about that storyline. So, that's one of the threads in the episode. The other thread is Emanuelita at the Border Patrol. And she is not doing so well. You know, basically she just sits at a desk and scowls. And then she goes outside and goes on patrol and scowls. And then she finds illegals and scowls at them. And then she takes them back and scowls on the ride back. So that's basically her character development as a strong, independent female character. And she finds this mother and her daughter, and she drops her gun belt while she's going after them. And
well, they were scared. They thought she was she was trying to show them a good faith that she didn't want to hurt them. So she puts down her gun, and there's a white van there, and she had already opened it up. There's nobody in it. And then while she was investigating that, the girl and her mom run. And it's, a little girl. It's like a, I don't know, 10 or 11-year-old or whatever. Kind of like the same age as those boys who are missing.
Oh.
And
maybe it's connected.
Maybe.
Ooh.
And so she finally, they were starting to go into the river, which looked really dangerous, and she had to stop them, and she finally did.
And on their way back, or taking them in, she sees that the gun was stolen, and then the van drives away, which is pretty hilarious because, Emanuelita, she is not very good, and she doesn't even know how to speak Spanish to these illegals either, and none of the people at the Border Patrol know how to speak Spanish,
which
apparently.
is bizarre to me. I don't believe it for 1 second. I just can't imagine working in a Border Patrol office where you deal with people from South America, Central America, and nobody speaks Spanish. Nobody, not even hardly a word or two. And that so when she's trying to talk to this mother and daughter to find out what's going on with them, she can't communicate with them. She can't understand what they're saying. But she has a suspicion that it's something to do with human trafficking. But there was nothing else. There was no other person. It was only the mother and the daughter. There was no other person like running that she saw running away. It was just whoever had the white van, which they drove it off. And she also did that unpardonable sin by a police officer or security person, putting your gun down and it gets taken by the bad guy. But she takes them back because she has a suspicion whatever's going on with them, and she got some kind of clue from them about a pig. And that's a puerca.
Well, it's a symbol.
It was, yeah. But who said it was pig? Was it her or the little girl? Or she said it and the little girl said yes or whatever. And so who knows what that means. So she takes them back, and of course they're making arrangements. They're going to take them back over the border the next day or whatever. And she tries to tell them she thinks, she just has a feeling it has to do with human trafficking, and they question them, and they said no,
and
you don't need to. It's
just that typical thing of exactly where the story's gonna go. It's very, very cliche. It doesn't matter what the environment is, who the characters are. It's we've seen the story before. And, we know what's going to happen. We know that she's going to investigate it herself. She might get in trouble by her boss, and she'll have to choose between the job and between seeking the truth, and then she seeks the truth, and, we know where the story's going to go.
And in the books, she does go to the Border Patrol, but she goes back, because she and Jim Chi end up being a couple and then getting married later in the books. In fact, all of Anne Hillerman's books, I believe, for the most part, they're them. Because Joe Leaphorn has retired. And he kind of helps them on some of their cases,
Well, I hope that's never the show, and that would never be a good show. So I hope
don't know, but I'm saying that she's not going to be there forever.
Well, yeah, but we know what's going to happen. It's the same thing that happened in season 1 when they had Jim Chi as what was he, an FBI informant or whatever, and they had the same thing. It was he came there, and it's his bosses are terrible and he doesn't want to do this and blah blah blah. It's we've seen this before, and honestly, it was pretty bad because it's like, you don't care about Emmanuel Leda. She's not good. She's not a good actress. She's not a good character. She was kind of in season 1 a little bit at some points, like that part where she had the fight with the Taco Bell woman in that house. But like, she's just like really, really, really just one-dimensional, of like this scowling all the time. And it's like, you'd never look at the X-Files and say like, oh, I don't care what happens this episode because Mulder and Scully, all they do is just scowl. Like, you'd never say that because you actually like those characters. And so I think that they need to make these characters likable. I don't even like Joe Sleephorn either. I mean, he's boring. These characters are boring.
Well, I like them all, but to me, it's just an introductory episode.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And I also think they're basically just riding the wave of like, oh, well, you like these characters in the book, so you should like them here too. No. Like, these need to be their own characters that you like on the show. So, Safi is like a fanboy, though, so she's not really going to criticize it very much.
That's not true. I was I was shocked because we don't know what the span of time is between when she left up north to come down here. We don't know how much time has elapsed. So, to me, I don't understand why she hasn't learned how to speak Spanish. Because it seems like she's thorough about other things. But to me, for this job especially, you would want to know Spanish. It's just, and especially if there's human trafficking involved. And they do, they bring people into the United States. And they're trafficked over around the country and over to Europe or wherever. And I would think that would be an integral part of being an investigator, to know how to speak the language. And yeah, it's, they can know Navajo and Hopi and all that, but if they're bringing people from South America and Central America, they're not speaking Navajo and Hopi, they're speaking Spanish. So, I don't know. That was the one problem I had, which I just didn't understand it. And nobody, and like Marco says, nobody else in the office seems to know it either.
No.
And they don't care, and then they ignore what she says. Like, you're just, I don't know, they just discounted what she said. And I'm thinking, like, are they discounting it because, number one, she's new, or I don't know how new she is, fairly new. Are they discounting it because she's a woman, which Marco's going to freak out that I said that? Are they discounting it because they don't care? They just want her out of there. That's the whole point, just to ship everybody back south, and that's the end of it, like throwing away the trash and wiping your hands off and stepping away. Or somebody in the office is in on it, the human trafficking.
I don't know.
And so, but there's no clear indication of any of that. It could be any of those things.
These are the storylines. These are the storylines that are set up. And by the way, guys, the way that Safi is sitting, you guys know those like scenes in movies where like you have the person in confessional and they're sitting there, like that's what Safi looks like right now. It's like she's confessing.
Bernie is sitting in my chair and he's asleep, and I'm not going to make him get out of the chair. So.
Well, you could face the camera. I mean, you could face the microphone. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I just thought in general, honestly, it's just kind of there, this show. I think that it is kind of an improvement over last season so far. Like, I think this might be the best season so far. But I can't really say much because this is just the first episode. It's just the setup. And, I don't know, like...
Well, we'll just have to see. I liked it, and I thought it was... The thing about the Spanish bothered me, and then, of course, I recognized the fact that they did the thing where they go back in time, and they did that the last season. I'm like, is this some kind of thing that everybody is going to do now, or this is something they just like to do, or... they somehow think that's really very effective, which I don't know if it's necessarily true that it's effective. And then because Robert Redford and that other guy, Marco says, is, would you say George Martin, who made Game of Thrones, because maybe they're more, maybe they were in the episode for like a, it was a cameo. They're playing chess in the jail, in the jail cell wasn't the door closed? And maybe they have a more hands-on approach to what's going on, and maybe that's why it.
I don't know. I just don't care.
I don't know.
That's my review of the episode. I just don't care. Like, what is there to care about? Safi, answer that. What do you?
Well,
what
for
do you
one thing, I wanted to see
about?
what they're basing this storyline on. And I really
Figure it out.
Can't recall. Well, I am going to figure it out. I can't figure out.
I mean,
I can't recall.
Do you care about Joe Sleephorn now that it's not the same character and they're going to do this whole thing where, oh, now he feels bad, and it's like, oh, well, that's too little, too late. And
well,
it's
Marco's saying that because he's starting to have nightmares or visions or whatever of the guy being alive. The guy he killed being alive.
He's not alive. He's dead, and he's just...
Oh, I know, but he's having nightmares about it or something. Like he is alive, and he's haunting him.
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah, I don't care about any of it. I really don't.
And if you want just a spoiler, which I guess everybody's already seen the episode because they've had almost a week to see it.
I mean, we have shows like The Penguin, Daredevil, and then you have a show like this.
It's just unique in its own way.
Yeah, but
anyway, at the end,
they
find the two boys, and it's really disgusting and gross.
Oh yeah, they're dead.
They're dead, and they're in a. And Navajos are not supposed to be around dead people, because they have this Chindi spirit, Chindi, and when they die in their what is it? Their hogan. They have to mash in one side of the hogan, and when in World War II, when the Navajo code talkers and other Navajo were in the field and they were around, dead soldiers, they have to go through that. Remember that blessing way, the thing that Jim Chee's learning how to do, and of course they didn't say a word about any of that in this episode. They have to be like cleansed of that negative energy and negative spirit. So anyway, here is Joe Leaphorn and that other detective it's a pipe, like a sewer pipe or something, and they were up in the top, and they kind of fell partially down, and one of them at the very end, there's a clue. One of them has something in his mouth, and it looked like some kind of metal charm. It was probably supposed to be sterling silver, because there they make the turquoise and sterling silver jewelry. And
well, now Bernie has joined us for a review.
Yeah.
He turned back around so he could join us.
Yeah, but he doesn't have much to say. He has a sleepy face.
Bernie, what do you think of this stupid episode? I gotta say, I think that this episode, if anything, I think it's like a mix of seasons 1 and 2. The only thing that I was a little bit excited for was the trailer, because then it was like all of the highlights like compiled into one, but like I don't know, I'm just not hooked into the mystery. Like they have this like mystery that they're telling, but the part that they forget is to make you care about what's going on. And like there's nothing there for you to care about, except if you like Joe Sleephorn, you might care that he feels bad. Other than that, I mean, what is there to care about? Like his wife coming in while he's making eggs, and she's like, I'll take mine with extra shell. And he's like, oh no, sorry. And then he takes the shell out. Like, that was queer. But like, yeah, like this is an example of a not good premiere. This is an example of a not good first episode. Like, this season's not going to get any more viewers than last season unless something is really, really good in the next episode, because that's the key. Like for TV shows especially, like you always see with the ratings, the first episode is really, really high for views, and then they immediately drop and drop and drop, and they might come back at the end. And I think that, I don't know, and it's already been renewed for a 4th season. I don't know why, but...
yeah, even before it aired, that's what they said, that it was renewed.
Oh, actually, the one thing I am excited about is the fact that there are 8 episodes this season, not 6.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
That actually, I forgot about that. That is exciting because that means that they are taking their time to tell a story more.
And that's a good thing, because that's been sorely lacking in quite a few things we've seen.
I wonder what happened, because they didn't get any more episodes last season, but then all of a sudden for season 3 they get that plus season 4. Like, what happened there?
I think Robert Redford happened.
You think he was like, okay, guys?
Well, he's one of the producers, and the other guy who...
This is a really good show, guys. Trust me, I'm Robert Redford.
Well, and the other guy, too. So,
the other guy's too busy still finishing his shitty book. He can't finish the Game of Thrones final book. He hasn't even finished his final Game of Thrones book. I mean, he is a weakie. He is a weak...
I don't know anything about
pathetic slob. And he needs to finish his fucking book now.
So, anyway, I think it has something to do with them.
I would give this episode...
Put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, well, I don't know what. I don't know how. I mean, what could you even say? I mean, I couldn't sell the show. The show's bad. The show's mediocre. It needs help in the writer's room. It doesn't need help with, like...
Well, we'll see, Marco. It's just the first episode.
Yeah, but it's bad. It's bad. You said it was really good. And so
I liked it, but I didn't like the fact that she didn't know how to speak Spanish.
Yeah, I didn't
nothing.
Like that.
No, you even me, who I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I do know some basic words. And, I mean, puerca, that's pig. Or puerco, sorry. Puerco, I mean, really? And the river, I mean, come on.
That was on fucking Leave It to Beaver and shit.
I don't know. But anyway, Bernie, who's looking at me now, it's like this, Bernie.
I would give this episode a C-. No,
I'll give it a B, because I don't understand, because I'm wondering, now thinking even back to the books, I just can't recall if there's that many people who can speak Spanish, and that just makes no sense to me. You understand, and we've been through this too lately on the news. And this area used to be Mexico a long time ago.
She doesn't have any, like, pocket translator either. Like, you think about, if you're taking, like, a little vacation back in the 70s... Because doesn't this take place in the 70s?
That's right. It does take place.
That doesn't matter.
Really.
If it was the 70s and you traveled, you would take a translator with you. You'd take a book.
And they're in a job where they would have to have that.
Yeah.
You think they would have that as part of their equipment.
That's weird.
That's what I don't get it. And I'm going to look that up too for the real deal about the Spanish. Speaking Spanish, the translator business.
I think that you could solve a lot of issues with the government by just going to the Border Patrol and saying, hey, do you speak Spanish? And then if they say no, you fire them. Like, that's how you would get things done. And you make a better Border Patrol.
Well, there's a lot more to it, but that would be a big part.
Like, that's really important.
They can't even speak the language.
Yeah.
So they don't know if they're just dealing with somebody who's getting away from being killed, getting away from somebody, human trafficking.
It's retarded. Somebody
who has illegal drugs, or somebody who just wants to come to the United States. You have no idea.
What if they did like a trap, where they have like the woman and child on the side of the road, and they say like, "Come, we need your help," and then you go with them, and then you get shot. Like, what if it turned into that? Like, there's just a lot of outcomes that you're kind of like giving up like control over if you can't even speak the language or know anything what they're saying, or just it seems like it. I don't know, and I just think.
Well, it's right now. They just don't care. Because they've been told not to care.
I think that they're trying to make people care because there's a monster in the season, but it is most definitely probably a Scooby-Doo situation. So
Yeah.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Well, it had a little metal arrow too, and that wasn't any rough. That looked very professionally made, don't you think? That little arrow they show in the very beginning. I didn't even know what it was like from a dart gun. You know, like one of those blow dart things. It wasn't that big, was it? It was like maybe 6 inches, or was it bigger than that?
If the monster on the show isn't real, then we can have Bernie be the monster. You know, he's smiling now. Oh, he's yawning. Because he's bored listening to us talking about this boring episode.
No, he's thinking about dinner. His dinner. He likes to have his dinner.
You can tell how interesting the episode is because we're not even talking about it.
So, well, anyway, I liked it, but I did give it a B because this... And I'm going to have to look that up, too, because I really don't... I don't recall that there were people... It was mainly the focus on all the Native American languages of the area. And if you're on the Border Patrol, I just don't get it why you wouldn't know how to speak Spanish. Somebody. Anything. So it doesn't.
There was also a really weird scene where Emmanuel Lida's at the bar, and that feels like a meme. It feels like Emmanuel Lida walks into a bar, and that's like the start of a joke. But like she's talking with the other border agents in the bar off duty about what's going on, and it's just so hilarious because I don't know if like this is how the actress is in real life, but all she does is just scowl. And
she's
so
really
it's like,
good at it. She's the best scowler I've ever seen in my life.
Even off duty, even when she's just hanging out at a bar, she's just sitting there scowling.
I mean, I wish I could do that. It's really good. Well, there's somebody I know who does that really well.
Your mom.
No, somebody who everybody sees too
Your
much of
mom.
on TV. Anyway,
Okay.
But she's good at it.
So
So goodbye, everybody. If you want to
that's
become
it?
one of our subscribers, please do so. We have, how many do we have now, Marco? 600 and...
5,600, 712.
No, we have 600 and something. Subscribers, and you want to make a comment? You have anything to say about, you know more about the Border Patrol for real, and about the speaking Spanish and the books, and what this episode is or season is based on, what book, which I'm going to have to look it up. It seems familiar to me, some pieces of it, so it's only one episode, so I don't know. But I did read the book that related to the last season, so, well, all the other 2 seasons, I read those books. So anyway, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.